Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the LJL OU. Surprise, surprise, new faces up on the desk here. I am Midnight. I've basically just sort of assassinated whoever was here before, whoopsies, and have taken over. I'm joined, as everybody can see, once again, by Melvin Izzle, hasn't gone anywhere, and Nymera is going to be joining us here on the desk for our games coming up. And I suppose we have time to maybe look at what games we've got coming up, lads. Sengoku Gaming, which we just saw before, had a very good game in some aspects. We'll be going up against Burning Core for our third game of the night. And I suppose we already had a pretty good look at Sengoku Gaming, and from their performance based on the game we just saw, Melvin Izzle, are you feeling confident coming into this second game against Burning Core? Like, what was your read on Sengoku after game number one?
I'm a bit shaken, if I'm not going to lie to you. The Hawks came in with way more power than expected, and they performed quite well, managing to finish out the game. Great adaptation from that team from game 1 to 2. I'm hoping Sengoku have a similar experience where they adapt from their first game to the second, and the place I want to see that adaptation is putting Ramune on a non-Lulu pick, because they did absolutely nothing last game, and even if they wanted to, they couldn't.
And this was a real story for Spring as well for Sengoku, which was mainly, first half of the split, what are we doing with Ramune? Second half of the split, okay, we'll put them back on comfort, and then into playoffs, they finally found a couple of champions, which he could really thrive on, so I completely agree with Melvin Izzle on that.
Yeah, and because of course that's a point of question that a lot of us had come about Sengoku Gaming, right? Is how is this new mid laner going to fit in? Are they going to stick to trying to get them into the team? Part of the idea you could just throw them onto an assassin, which is doesn't unconventional. Throw a Z on him. Why not? What could go wrong, right? But they decided working for the team. Hopefully that trend continues because you work with the team. It's just going to come across better. Now, speaking of teamwork, let's talk about the other team in this matchup here, Burning Core. Now, Nymera, I'm going to come to you first because you have a little bit more experience with Burning Core. And how, like, in the time you haven't seen them, because of course there was that MSI break, do you think Burning Core has a bit of a better shot coming into the second half of the year?
It can only go up from here. So yes, got a bit more experience with this team. That doesn't mean you have to assume that's good experience. I mean, actually, 2020, there were some bright sparks. Spring, Burning Core versus CGA, always a highlight matchup for us on this broadcast. Into summer, they took DFM to 5 games, even though DFM struggled a lot in that 2020 summer split. In spring of this year, though, they were catastrophically falling apart. They tried to upgrade, and Melvin Izzle has been consumed by the void. So, by the way, of course, you might not have seen me on screen in the last 2 games, but I was here doing production stuff, trying to sort some various shenanigans in the background. But, Burning Core are definitely this team we have a lot of eyes on, but they're not in a particularly positive way. I guess what we're looking for is a revival of Rayfarki in the top side, and potentially Proud as well in that support role to try and balance things out, because against Sengoku, that bot lane 2v2 has always been a strong point for them, and Burning Core, I think they're going to struggle there.
And areas of strong points, as I have escaped from the void, Gariaru escaped from the void that was Axis beforehand, only to fall into another pit trap that is this Burning Core roster. We're hoping for this mid lane to see some returns to form in both sides. Last game, we didn't really get a good impression of Ramune, in my opinion. We didn't get to see much from them, as we alluded to. Gariaru, they are coming into this one with not as high highs, but more recent highs. So I'm looking at these two thinking, if either of these teams can really find what makes them tick, get back to that point that we saw Sengoku at the end of the split, maybe even see if Gariaru can come fully online with the massive meta shifts we've had recently, potentially we get an absolute banger in the mid lane, and that may be the secret to getting either of these teams up those standings.
It'll be very, very interesting to see, because these are the two mid laners that, as you guys have both said, are a little bit of oddball in one case and sort of a lone wolf in the other. So I'm hoping, maybe it's just me, I really just want to see like Renekton being thrown in the middle lane, get a Nidalee or Elise, and just sort of really hammer in that middle lane, because you might as well give it a crack. It's week 1. This is sort of the thing that I think you can afford to get away with a little bit of early shenanigans. So I feel like you could go for something a little bit unconventional. I mean, we've already seen it today, right? Sengoku did bring their Draven to play. Gango had a less than fortunate time on the Draven. Let's put it a little bit bluntly. He couldn't do what we really hoped for. Do you, if you're Gango, because Sengoku Gaming's bot lane, Gango, NT, there's been a lot of talk about, what can they really facilitate each other? Was the game we just saw before against Hawks a good indicator of how this bot lane's going to work together? Namera, you made a noise. You made a noise, mate.
So, I mean, they had, like, all of the tools thrown at them to enable these double AD carries, and I get that Lulu is never going to be the champion to show off individually unless you're Season 5 Faker, and, well, no one is that but the man himself. So, I mean, I know you're talking about Gauriaru and Remini, and the stats are on screen right now, but in terms of trying to enable this bot lane, honestly, I prefer them having a better self-sufficient CV2. We've seen the Aphelios Thresh. We've seen them play stuff like that before. Gango is an old-school Draven player. He was on Samsung White in Season 4 as a substitute AD carry. This guy has been trained by the very best in League history and has been this aggressive player for forever, but he needs to have the go buttons himself, and in that game, even though there was that range discrepancy, that just ended up being enough backline access and he couldn't peel for himself, and the rest of the team couldn't really buy that for him, even though it seemed like they had the comp to do that. That's what I'm worried for. I feel like you've got to give more tools to the man himself.
And what are they competing against this game? Against Burning Core, I think there's going to be the bot lane 2v2 of Gango and NT trying to outdo Burning Core's top lane 2v2 of Once and Rayfaki. This is where I imagine most of the pressure is going to be from Burning Core, based on all the prep we're going through, just discussions of how these teams will look to play. I mean, we saw last game, Paz didn't have the best performance in the world, but frankly, I don't think that was necessarily the reason that they lost. It was just a matter of Sengoku kind of got skill checked across the map in skirmishes, and they couldn't hold up to it, which is weird to say.
Ooh, looks like we're into draft. So I'll be leaving you to enjoy the game.
Oh boy.
Thank you very much, Nomera. And we're going to get right into it here. Our third game of the night. Sengoku facing off against Burning Core. And it starts off, surprise, surprise, Twisted Fate. The mid laners are getting picked off immediately. Twisted Fate and the Lucian get caught off immediately. And even the set from last game not going to slip by either.
Absolutely traumatized by that one. The multi-role flex of the set. Dasher went to town on the Sengoku with that pick. That may have just been Crash asking for it to avoid having to roll sanity on this one, because they are in danger when that champion is in the game, as the Lulu's taken away. So Ramune, at very least, is going to be on a different enchanter if they're going to go for the same style again.
I'm not so sure that if you are Sengoku, you do commit to the same style. Maybe a similar, but I feel like you might want to give Ramune something more to play with. Because as you said before, the Lulu, you just don't do a lot on your own. And yes, I appreciate they're trying to get their mid laner to be more teamwork based, but I'm not so sure telling them to say XD have a basically player support enjoy is the way to get them to want to do that, right? Give them something that can really do damage on a Syndra, an Orianna, something that gives a bit more, freedom and even priority for themselves. So.
Exactly.
Okay.
Even something like the Zoe might be the way to go coming into this one. As just looking at the bans that have come out, they actually getting rid of that Karma multi-role flex really ahead of the schedule. You know who has a lot of agency? That Akali. We're talking about the potential for assassins. This champion is insane right now in pro play. I think she's hovering somewhere like a 70% win rate. Back in their heyday, we were looking at these kind of numbers, and we've got them again. She's just so good against most of the matchups. Everybody else can't compete post Riftmaker changes, and we will see the Lee Sin as an answer coming out.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, Lee Sin, still high priority. Ezreal, I really think you need to lock this champion in. Ezreal is just ridiculously good right now, and there's no reason to not let in, especially because your AD carry is Yuhi, a player that does have a bit of trouble making that big impact. So if you give them something safe like an Ezreal, I think it opens up Proud. Because worst comes to it, you could just put Proud on a Roma and just tell Yuhi to play safe. So I like the fact that there's a lot of safety in that, as the Rumble locked in for Crash and the Varus picked up for Gango. Not the Draven, but can still do quite a lot of impact.
That's very dangerous right there. Locking in the Varus, but no Thresh to be seen. I would be astounded if we don't see that one banned away from NT right now. They are very good on the champion and pretty much essential to have when you have the Varus. Right now, Burning Core deciding on what strategy they want to settle with. It will be the Galio locked in. So Galio, Ezreal, Lee Sin. These three champions, they don't necessarily synergize, but I like the idea. It gives Galio the option to roam two side lanes a lot, punish Gango for going overzealous, and it is a massive nuisance for Akali in lane.
how do you deal with an assassin? The anti-ability power rock that is the Galio. I love
He's
seeing
built
that one
different.
too. He's just built different, exactly. As the support pool is going to get pinched up a little bit here. Nautilus is going to go down. You said you'd like to see a Thresh on that ban list as well as Proud and Ninty. They're going to have to start digging deep because I feel like all four of these bans are just going to be thrown towards those two people.
With the amount of flex picks in the game and both ADCs secured, I completely agree with you right now because there's nowhere else that is safe, I'm putting air quotes right now, to ban. Because you just don't know. Lee Sin could end up in the jungle, could end up in a solo lane. Galio could end up in the support role. As I really like that Nocturne ban, actually, because it means that they can still use the Galio. When Nocturne activates Paranoia, Galio and Shen and TPs do not work. You cannot use them because you can't target anything across the map. As Rakan will be the final ban from Sengoku, removing that proactivity from Proud.
There is no, hovering the brand.
Absolutely
I got so
not.
excited for a second before remembering there is not a world where that gets locked in the Braum instead for a bit more protection to give Yuhi.
Just, a bit of the burning core showing off that they have got the fire ready to go. Maybe not in the champion pick, unless Annie's getting locked in. I think that is probably the most viable fire-based champion right now. And Thresh, finally, we see it locked in, as expected. But in reality, what we see here is Burning Core saying, we're fine to take the Braum into that as, oh, please, Lord in heaven. As Diego is being hovered right now by Sengoku. Is it my birthday? Let's find out. This is only a hover. I hate talking about hovers, but Gango's Draven and Diego in general, these are ones that will break my rule every time, as it will just switch over to the Gnar. Sucks to sucks, but at least it's an LJL Gnar.
Yeah, it's an LJL Gnar, and as much as I would have loved the Diego, the Gnar I really like, because Oh, okay. I was not expecting a Jace to come in here. We can assume that is going to go to Rayfaki in the top lane.
Mm-hmm.
So
makes sense as a counter, but isn't the expected one?
Yeah, I was. Okay, that's going to be very interesting. I mean, you can get away with it, right? Because you don't need frontline. You've got the Galio and the Braum, so you might as well add a little extra poke there to back up the Ezreal. So that's going to be really, really exciting to see from Burning Core. I just hope it doesn't fall into the typical trap that a lot of Jaces do, which is they do one lane, and then they just sort of exist for the following team fights.
And we do have a pretty rigid pair of laners from the Sengoku squad. Gnar does not do too much in the mid lane, so unlikely to get a swap. And this is actually Remini's first Akali game in the LJL, so we'll have to see how they perform on that one. They are very strong right now, but against that Galio, against that Lee Sin, both of these champions that provide a massive nuisance. Galio, because he can taunt you when you're invisible. Lee Sin, he has two ways to reveal you while you're invisible. Both of which, very easy to do. So, coming into this one, we'll have to see how they can approach it, and if they can actually handle it coming into this game.
I really think that an Akali is a good assassin, but my concern is that Ramune's not going to be allowed to do anything during the laning phase because it's up against the Galio. And then by the time they actually start getting online, it might just be a little bit too late. Galio, as I said before, really good protection. And then if Ramune tries to dive through the backline, boom, all you need is one tag from the Winter's Bite passive, and you're kind of just irrelevant in a team fight as an Akali. So I really want to see what they're going to do. Do you just go completely wild world, rush movies on NT's Thresh and just start roaming to the middle lane, hard camp this mid lane just to make sure your Akali goes well?
I have to admit, I'm starting to feel the urge for some copium right now as a Sengoku believer, as this draft does make me a bit scared. Gango, they had a fine game last time. They were as dominant in lane as expected, but weren't able to really push the ticket into the kills. This time they have the Varus, so there is some agency with that chain of corruption, but you're against a Braum, against a lot of mobile champions. Galio is realistically the only one that is going to be easy to hit, because Braum wants to be hit, so he's fine. Everybody else either has the move speed or a dash to escape it, and it makes it pretty scary, because other than the Varus ult, your force tools are a good equalizer and a flanking Gnar, not the best.
Yeah, there are easier ways to start fights around objectives. And I kind of wanted to talk about objectives very briefly, because we've got Lee Sin on once, and of course Crash rocking the Rumble. Now, which I feel like a lot of these games have been very dragon focused and trading the dragon for that first turret. We saw that a lot out of the Hawks. They would just rush the Herald, drop it, secure a turret. I feel like these games could be a little bit more focused around the dragon objectives. And to that end, on that bottom lane, does that give Sengoku a bit of an advantage because they're running the more aggressive of the two bottom lanes? With like the Thresh to go fishing.
It should give them at least some degree of priority. It means that they can have their jungler go and face check River with the option to get landed out if they do get collapsed on. So it is encouraging at very least that for Sengoku. Obviously, we're talking about how last game the entire draft was built around getting Gango the just best scenario they could. In this one, they've said, actually, let's maybe not over-index into double ADC. Let's have a good ADC. Gango can do their stuff regardless of how much resources we give them. So let's take a look and see if they can actually dominate this one. They will be up against a Braum and a Cleanse Ezreal, making that level 6 mark not as much of a spike for Gango as we're expecting.
That's like the second safest Ezreal I think I've ever seen, alongside maybe Ezreal Yuumi, because Yuumi brings double defensive summoner spells to make sure the Ezreal comes out alive. But, I mean, it makes sense. You talked about the biggest areas of priorities is going to be the hook, and of course, the Chains of Corruption. You cleanse that out, well, you kind of make sure Sengoku cannot start the fight. So I do love the defensibility of that. We just have to hope that Yuki is able to use that to keep themselves safe and go for the world's most... the new Ezreal build with Divine Sunderer is more disgusting than Blue Ezreal. I just want to have that in the sand now.
I don't think that's controversial. I think that's a very fair statement. It's a very good build and is such a nuisance to play against. We have just got Rayfaki's stats for Jace posted in. They are 3-1 all time. They have got some pretty nutty numbers, 5.7 KDA on this champion. They are pretty damn good at this, and considering it is a counter to Gnar, regardless of how good you are and how good this region is at Gnar, it's still a counter pick, and they're still competent on the counter pick. They are always ahead at CS at 15, so let's see what they can do with it and if they can make things happen, because right now in this bot lane, Burning Core sure as hell don't want action down here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't pick in the defensive Braum and the safe Ezreal if you're looking to go for those early kills, right? That's what we saw the Draven last game, for example, coming through, and they're already giving up position on the minion wave, so you would expect level 2 to come through. Just getting the nice damage from you, but she expect level 2, and that should just play itself out in the bottom lane here. There's no hook.
I think that Burning Core, looking at this game, could not have a better looking draft for them. They have got that power top jungle duo that can make things happen and force the ticket onto Crash and Paz as a hook comes through. That was actually very aggressive. What I was going to say is we also have a safe bot lane for Burning Core, as Yuhi doing their best to debate me on that one, but does end up trading Ignite for Cleanse. We'll have to see if that is brought up again later. And then a roaming mid laner of Garyaru. They're going to be looking to try and find this Akali in the Shroud when their Lee Sin is on the way, or just generally bully the side lane when we see Gango extending bot side.
Yeah, and we'll see how that plays out. Rayfaki, I just want to quickly just talk about Rayfaki. He's already got a massive CS lead. Surprise, surprise, it's a Jace. The stats we've been given is 609 damage per minute on the Jace. That is disgusting. But it also makes sense because look who's top lane once and Crash coming up to support their top laners.
When you have this much pressure, you are just allowed to free hit, and there's not much they could do. I like the Doran shield for Paz this game because you understand you are going to get poked out as Ramney actually getting forced on.
Yeah, but junglers are here. Ramney will be forced to back up. No Ignite and a missed Sonic Wave means that they will get out in one piece. But I like the aggression. You're playing Lee Sin. His signature is early game aggression, and you really want that double scuttle. You really want to get your Scuttle Crab.
But NT having different plans right now, roaming up the river because of where the Scuttle Crab walked to on top side. They will not be able to contest it, and there will just be another force onto Ramune in mid lane.
That's a ballsy TP from Manune. Gets punished, not as heavily as they could, but you've always got to be so careful when you do one of those lane TPs, because if there was an Ignite there, that's easily a kill that you could look for.
It is something that does get you a bit scared, but this is their first comp game on the champion, so we'll have to see if they can continue it. Akali is notoriously really bad in the early game because of those most recent set of changes she received, which basically took all of her power and shifted it to around the level 9 mark onwards. So we'll have to see if they can continue to play Survivor for this game as Crash counter jungling, same time as Once. Only difference is, I think as far as dive threat goes, the Nart is in a lot more danger than the bot lane.
Yeah, early damage of a Lee Sin and a Jace cannot be underestimated here, but instead of looking for the dive, it looks like Crash is just going to recall, so that's actually really nice for Once. He gets a top side clear, and look at the stacking wave, that's absolutely going to be a dive, surely.
Garriaro walking up level 5, no TP. Paz is full HP, but they are not under tower anymore. Oh, Once did show themselves out of the bush. This is just going to be zoning Paz off of XP. Looks like they will manage to get back to safety, but Crash in tow. They can look to chase potentially if they wanted to.
Yeah, but Rayfaki's just going to be so hard to run down on the Jace. Has the knockback, has the flash still in their back pocket as well, so forced to just sort of give up the side of that. The only saving grace, I think, is that Rayfaki doesn't have any of the turret platings yet, but look at the positioning, just constantly saying, Paz, if you want to farm, you're going to have to fight me, and there's no two ways about it. So that's going to be Paz's life for the next 20 minutes. I feel really sorry for him, because that's going to hurt.
And I really like how Once basically did the invade a few minutes earlier, stealing away the Grunt but leaving one Wolf. It means that you can pretty much guarantee Crash has to path into bot side, because if they don't acknowledge their Wolves are counter jungled, they will end up not receiving that camp for the best part of 3 to 5 minutes, depending on when they actually end up noticing it. As they are path to bot, but Crash is only level 5, there are full summoners for Burning Core, and Lee Sin's on their way to counter.
I think this is exactly what we saw top lane, just zoning them away from the minion wave. Proud, though, is feeling it. NT does get tagged up, but nothing much more going to come of that. Once it's level 6, though, you could absolutely look for an insect play, and I don't think they see him. They don't see him. They got no idea Once is here until he kills NT. Never mind, Yuhi will be the beneficiary of that, but that was a beautiful play around Vision. They had no idea Once was coming.
Very smooth criminal-esque right there. No summoners even blown from Sengoku, as the Thresh will die with Flash in inventory. And I'm pretty sure you said something about Moby Boots earlier on, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. They appear to have bought them immediately, and we'll have to see if they could actually use it, considering it is a pretty unbreakable wall between this Braum and the Ezreal in bot lane, so I imagine they want to get stuff done elsewhere now.
I just love seeing Threshers rush the Moby Boots, especially in lanes where most times Yuhi and Proud shouldn't be in a position to threaten Gango, unless Gango horribly overextends on their own. This means that NT can now look to the middle lane and really start to get Ramune online on this Akali, because I think that's one of the most important parts of pressure. You talked about, the power point of Akali looks to be more level 9. Well, that's 2 levels away, and now you can have backup to try and get a couple more kills on this Akali, which I adore the idea of, as long as you roam as, oh my god, Rayfaki, no! That's illegal!
That's a lot of damage right there, as Paz is shoved out of this lane with divine force. They have not had a chance to back yet, still has the TP, so it's not completely doomed for them. Does make a bit more sense why Rayfaki did relatively so much damage, as they're going to come back with steel caps, but now everybody's at drag at the Rift.
Oh my god, Once gets a good kick on the Crash. Crash is going to do just that in the river, trying to contest the Herald. I don't think they realize that everyone is here. Proud is here. The only member who isn't is Yuhi, as the rest of the team in the back of the Baron pit there. That's one flash out. Rayfaki is hanging around, not so sure what they want to do just yet, as they are kind of tightly grouped. Once Blast Cones back in. Paz not there at Mega Gnar yet, but they're looking for it as they trap 2 members in the back of the pit there. NT gets a 2-man play, and the heroic entrance might not buy the time. The Shield of Duran only buys time, as this is going to be a slaughter. Shirley gets taken down, but Burning Core overextending themselves. I don't think they realized that Gango was there.
That was an incomprehensible amount of indecision from Burning Core, deciding that one of them will instantly flash out of the Rift Herald pit, leaving their Jace sat in there alone. Take a look at this. They aggroed the Herald to get a smooth trip in. Nice kick comes out by Once here. Does manage to put Crash into a death state. No chance there. Equalizer burn as well. They start up the Herald, but watch this. They go back into the pit. It's currently a 4v4, but they immediately have Gariaru get the hell out of there. Reifaki has flash though, and he says, maybe we can take this, guys. I'm about to go ranged. I'm going to try and steal it and then jump out. One says, alright, I like the sound of that, but now there's nowhere for you to leap to. You don't have a way out, and suddenly you're both dead. Galio ults in, they die too, and it all goes wrong for Burning Core.
Yeah, I like the idea of what they were going for there, but I think once they realized Gango was on the top half of the map, they just had to give up the objective, but instead they really felt like contesting it. Yuhi did tire out the True Shot Barrage, but there's only so much Ezreal could do from the other side of the map here. So Burning Core maybe not realizing how many resources their opponents were bringing to the table in that fight. Now, so look at the kills and the items coming across there. 2 kills for this Akali in the middle lane is phenomenal, considering they now hit that level 9 point.
Absolutely terrifying. I'm curious to see whether they will opt for the Proto Belt or if they are going to go for the Night Harvester. I assume they'll go down the Rocket Belt solution, mainly because it gives them some level of access onto the Jace and onto the Ezreal, and gives you an added little bit of safety, because funnily enough, Akali, they're not one to lack dashes, but an extra one will never hurt.
Yeah. Now, if you can get more mobility, why wouldn't you? Look in this bottom lane, Rift Herald was dropped by Gango, who of course did pick it up after the shenanigans on the top half of the map here, but that will be all of the turret platings given up to the bottom side, and that's going to be fantastic here, as they're not getting it yet, but that's still a lot of gold being basically put into Gango's pocket, considering his opposite number has a completed Divine Thunder already.
I was going to say I actually really like this as opposed to the Heralds we saw last game, because Gango would have got solo tower gold on the First Blood turret. Does still only get split between them, so I like NT's recognition saying, hey, an extra gold doesn't do anything on me. Get my ADC snowballing ASAP, get them to first item, and then we can start to make things happen. As Paz does have NT coming up here with support, is going to dissuade any attempt to dive this Gnar at the tower.
Yeah, they're feeling confident here. Once does have access to the Dragon Rage kick, so there is the threat, but NT, whether he's been spotted or not, it's exactly the right position. Yeah, is on top of a ward just there, but really good moving from NT. As you said, didn't need the bottom side gold, has the Moby Boots, which is all you really need on the Thresh. Go top lane, guard your top laner, because let's be honest, Paz has basically just been bullied for the past 12 minutes by Reifeki's Jace. It's great to see it, but it's straight up bullying.
They have not had much of a time. I was going to say they haven't had much of a good time, but they really haven't had much of a time doing anything. They've just existed, but managed to get a lot done at that Rift Herald fight. So, we'll have to see what can actually happen now, as Paz is actually managing to get a tower plate, uncharacteristic for the matchup. We have seen that the Gnar has actually previously won lane over here in LJL. This is not a common counter pick of the Jace in the region, despite it being a globally considered counter that rarely actually gets executed on well outside of LPL.
I mean, if you can play it, and especially with someone of Reifeki's caliber, if you're confident enough in that matchup, why wouldn't you give it a crack? Because everyone right now is feeling confident, oh, I'll just blind pick Gnar, or I'll just grab myself a Gnar, it should be fine. It's the quote-unquote safe blind pick. So if you can say, hey, if you're ever wanting to lock in Gnar, you either have to ban Reifeki's Jace, or you need to wait in the rotation to lock it in. That's a great warning for every team. And so we'll see how that goes. So far, look down at the Mythics, as it is going to be that Rocket Belt for Ramune, surprise, surprise, extra bit of mobility. The Eclipse in the top half, and surprise, surprise, like, none of these are really surprising coming through here for any of these players. And it seems the game's a bit more passive, at least for the next minute until Rift Herald spawns.
Yeah, we have both teams commit very definitively over there, and we'll have to see if they repeat themselves at this objective. They have good tools right now. Nobody has tagged over to level 11, just taking a skim through to see if anybody's going to get that second ultimate point spike before then. And main thing I want to see from these teams right now is I need to see Sengoku kind of get Gango into a spot where they can make plays. They have picked up that Prowler's Claw, which gives them a lot of outplay potential in fights. And Reifaki, while they have had a great time in the lane, they need to be unlocked and getting stuff done, because they are very good at playing into the Gnar, and they are happy to take this kind of matchup. But now we have finally seen the attention paid to them at last by Burning Core.
Oh, Paz is in so much trouble. The TP coming through here. Will it come through in time? Paz is simply buying time, but I don't think it's going to matter because the double TP on the counter end there means that Ramone's reinforcements just simply doesn't matter.
Very well played, does get something done, as finally Gango gets to force something, but they do not actually get the connection with the arrows. Does mean that potentially, though, that will give them the priority in this mid lane to look over to that Herald that is about to spawn, but when there's a Lee Sin lurking and your Gnar just died, there's really no safe way in the river. They will be able to go over, but there will not be a Mega Gnar on the table for this objective.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of Burning Core's signal that they should be giving up this objective. It's really annoying to have to give it up, but it's not the end of the world, all things considering. So, give up this objective, maybe get some early vision down on the bottom side so you can have an easier time setting up for the next dragon. Because, yeah, they've backed up, and I think that's the right decision here. You already lost one rather important team fight based around that objective. Do you really want to make potentially the same mistake again? It seems like a bit of a foolish way.
And as for the same mistakes, I think that Sengoku are scarred from the last game where they got mullered by double Herald going down mid, breaking base open for just around the 20-minute mark. They do secure this one now, so they will have that option. But frankly, if you look at the map, they've only taken one turret, and it was using that Rift Herald. So we need to see Sengoku maybe pay a bit more attention to mid, as Paz being left isolated against the Galio. Very scary stuff because the Lee Sin can come in, follow up, and we've seen that Paz is just being forced behind at every turn this game while Rayfaki is doing great stuff.
Yeah, that may or may not have something to do with the fact that Once has been pretty active making sure this top lane is going their way, as now might be caught out, forced to ward hop over to safety just to get out of danger. But I like the enthusiasm of Once. Playing Lee Sin, you kind of have to play with a little bit of cockiness, I want to say. So if you're going to go for it, why not? Steal away the red buff, walk away, look cool doing it. As I don't think Sengoku were happy about that. Look at this, they're grouping pretty much everyone in the middle lane here with that Rift Herald drop, saying, okay, you can take the red buff, but can you keep your own turret safe is the next question.
I don't think they'll be able to defend this one effectively. As long as Paz stacks that Demolish, it's going to get very, very low, as it's going to get so close. They're going to try and last hit, but they take a lot of damage. Do secure the first tower in this middle lane is going to give them a very important priority for this next dragon, and I love the window that Sengoku have right now. Crash is going to take this Krog camp and base. We want to see everybody from Sengoku reset right now, so they have spent all their money, got all their vision control back 1 minute before the dragon. I really like this, and it is appreciate to see teams actually acknowledge reset windows. Rayfaki doing similar work, basing, and then he's going to walk top and TP bot if needed. So this is good recognition from both teams preparing for that crucial Infernal.
Look at this proximity between the two junglers here. Once has just been everywhere. And yes, we talk about it time and time again, right? Lee Sin, aggressive champion. You have to do well up in it. 20% and 24% between the two solo laners is a ridiculous amount of pressure that they've been putting on. Especially when you compare it to Crash, who hasn't had nearly that level of impact in the solo lanes. As we're approaching dragon number 3, it will of course be the Infernal Dragon, as we can clearly see that on the Rift, and it will be Burning Core that will be forced to approach this objective with 4 members, because Rayfaki is currently top lane bullying Paz again.
As expected, this Gnar will not be allowed over, and I think this is probably the best shout that we can have from Burning Core. Keep Gnar away from the fight, but frankly, they've dedicated, in my opinion, too many resources over, as they're just completely sacking the dragon. It doesn't truly matter to lose one Infernal, but they're not really gaining much unless they dive Paz here, and I don't think they're going to fish for it.
Oh my god, the engage coming through there. Rayfaki is tagged up under tower. That is a little bit of a disaster.
Yeah, Enti's name can be pronounced a little bit different and summarize that play. It was a bit Inti right there, as Rayfaki goes a bit too aggressive, gets absolutely punished by Paz and the Thresh right there. Kept under tower, held still, and just bullied for their overzealousness. We had Once and Proud lurking on the side to follow up, and frankly, they both decided, rightfully so, there's no chance for you, goodbye, friend.
Yeah, I think the moment you saw the Gnar come through and the hook come through, like, nope, this not our problem. We don't know the guy. Have fun. And just abandon ship, basically. But at that point, you don't have much of a choice. If you commit to helping Rayfaki, you'll join him in his, 30-second long trip back to base. So, always want to play a little bit safe there. Coming through as Teams resetting here a little bit. We're seeing once again looking for something on the side lanes here, but I do like that Ramunine is playing very safe on this Akali in the side lanes. Not just saying, oh yeah, I can go for a kill. It's making sure that they're not going to get ambushes. Once really wants this turret.
They are just trying to get all of the pressure on the map. They cannot get on the top side, but they have scouted with Rayfaki saying, hey, we are more than confident that in the 10 seconds before Baron spawns, you will not have the ability to set up and try and threaten it on Sengoku's half. So I like this just getting Lee Sin to do stuff, because when there are no camps available to take, you have to be pressuring the map, and this is the best window to do, despite what we saw previously in top lane.
Exactly, and I just want to look at the positioning of the mid laner from Burning Core right now. Hanging out between the two tier turrets, worried about the very dive that his top jungle duo was setting up in the bottom lane. That is, I love seeing play like that because it is so respectful coming out of Burning Core here. They're aware of the possibility, and instead of saying, oh, risk it, or oh, let's go get warding on it, it's let's make sure we play it safe. We haven't got the numbers. Let's back it up a little bit. This is a Burning Core that I must say, I'm really, really excited because they look like a team. Like, they've been playing for 20 minutes and they actually look like a 5-man team coming out this game.
All dead even, only one dragon really separating it, and just looking at the scaling for this game, it's very conditional on both parts, because everybody on Burning Core can offer a lot later on into the game, with the Lee Sin kind of dropping off, the Galio not doing a massive amount, and Brom being pretty much just a living shield at this point. It really does mean that it's all execution-based, because Yuhi and Rayfaki can put up one hell of a poke war against Gango, and it's only Crash's ultimate that can really assist them for Sengoku. So, if Burning Core can stay stable, keep Yuhi alive, which so far they've done a good job of, and allow them to just poke, I don't see a good way for Sengoku to force things, because you can't really rumble ult that team. They're all very mobile. It's really just going to be ramming into style in the side lane, and we haven't seen them attempt to yet. That doesn't mean they can't, they just have chosen not to.
But can you blame them? Because every time we've seen the side lanes, once has been lurking nearby. You never want to risk getting caught by that Lee Sin, because if you're the, even if you're the Akali, once you've burnt some of your resources to go in, you know, the Shuriken, or even the first half of the perfect execution, it's very hard to get out of it. So you need to make sure that you're getting good vision on once before you make any of these aggressive plays on the side lane, because otherwise once will appear out of nowhere like a ghost and just sort of kick you in the face until you die. Never an ideal circumstance, if you ask me.
It's one that I'm not particularly fond of. Getting nice school memories right now thinking about this game after saying that one's. Taking a look at we approach for this next fight coming up. We have 1 minute left on the Infernal. The dragon will be up soon with that Baron alive right now. So, taking a look to see what Burning Core could do, we need to see them start to poke. Get something pushed up. It's all going to be just a matter of trying to build a advantage in this river. Proud can face check, with Gariari always able to threaten the follow-up. We'll have to see if they actually go for that, because all we want from Burning Core is to keep going. They're doing good stuff so far. Don't just get slouching, because Paz is about to be mega and can force on you very fast.
Yeah, and this is where Sengoku have to decide, do we fight or do we commit to an objective? Because with the Mega Gnar, you're on a timer, and we're seeing members on the sideline, they might be able to get caught out there. The Gnar is far from ideal from Paz there. And now Burning Core can continue the poke, because once they've lost priority of the mid lane, and they're not starting the dragon.
It's just a matter of time before something goes loose. Paz no longer with the Mega, like you say, is going to make it much more difficult, as right now on the side, Crash getting forced.
Oh my god, once! That was disgusting. And now, with the jungler gone from Geki, they're actually in a really bad position, because look where they're running. They're running into the enemy team's jungle. They've got nowhere to go. The Chains of Corruption lands on one, a good piercing arrow, but they need to get Paz's Mega Gnar up, like, now, if they want to be able to do anything here, because they are on the wrong side of Summoner's Rift, and they could fall victim. Trading positions with Burning Core, not the most standard jungle dragon dance I've seen. We'll see, does it work for them? As Dragon is sitting relatively low. Once should be able to secure this on without too many troubles. People are recalling, and the flank TP could be massive if they can get access to the line. It looks like they're not going to be able to, and looks like Burning Core will not be able to pick a fight after that.
Scary stuff right then for Sengoku. They were getting chased around like a herd of sheep barely managing to make it out with minimal losses. But we do see that Burning Core, they are performing this game. It is astounding to see how well they are doing, and it is very encouraging to show that we have got some competition all across the league. We had the Hawks with a great performance in both of their games, and now we've got Burning Core, another one of our relatively lower down teams, standing up pretty well so far. It's only Axis left now, and then if they can do well for themselves later on today, then pretty much we got a massive gap in the middle of the league where there's all question marks.
Yeah, and I'd say even if Burning Core lose this game, the things that we've seen out of this team in this one game have been phenomenal here. Once we said to keep our eye on the once Rayfaki combo the top half of the map, but damn, they've been playing well as Yuhi. Well, nearly got caught out there, but Rune not feeling confident there. Enti going for an aggressive hook and a flash follow-up. Proud is in a lot of trouble there, but the hero's entrance does buy a little bit of room here. Shield will not connect and actually gets interrupted on the dash as Rayfaki on the bottom side of the fight does get some pressure onto Paz, but no one dies, just some cooldowns and abilities burnt.
Really don't want to have to see Gariari using that flash defensively.
Gecko, no!
Okay. They saw some highlight reel and tried to go in with the Prowler's Claw into Chain of Corruption, but they get absolutely decimated in the process. Rayfaki is a Gatling gun right now. Watch this. This is just a poke war. Who will win? I favor the Ezreal Jace, personally.
Yeah, it's a little easier for Ezreal Jace to get poke. It's on a shorter cooldown. Oh my god, Rayfaki! Have some mercy on your enemies, mate, please!
Is just a mortar cannon right now. They do so much damage with this completed mirror mana as they are building more lethality after, considering the Lee Sin has the carve effect on that Black Cleaver. It is a terrifying prospect even for frontliners right now, as the team will do so much insane damage from afar. It makes it really hard for Sengoku to play the game, as we are seeing. And now it looks like Burning Core will be rewarded by being able to get some damage on this mid lane tower. Ramune is lurking, but I don't know how they could even attempt to approach this personally.
They need Paz with Mega Gnar, and unfortunately, it's just not there. It's going to, I think, activate now, but very carefully and very rightly so, Burning Core immediately back up. I love how Burning Core are playing around the Gnar bar. Every time it gets close, they start backing up. Whenever it's available, they make sure they're not in a position to allow Paz to jump in. And their opponents here, I'm a bit confused by Paz's positioning, right? There are so many times where Paz is showing himself at the front line, being like, hey, I'm almost about to transform. And you talked about it in the Champions Select. For this composition, Gnar needs to flank.
And I'm thinking about they need to flank. They have gone for the not for the Stride Breaker this game, instead for the Divine Sunderer. This is a sideline itemization. They are using this to beat up Jace in the side lane. That hasn't been happening. This does not allow them to close that gap onto the important people of the Jace and onto the Ezreal in the backline. So frankly, I think it's a bit of a mismatch between what Sengoku are trying to do and the itemization they have chosen to pick up. We've got Ramune going for the Proto Belt to go in, but Crash then goes for the Night Harvester to poke from afar. We have got the Prowler's Claw coming out from Gango so they could dash through a minion, get the ultimate off, and have a really stylish play. But then Paz can't follow it up because they don't have Stride Breaker. It's just a bit of a disconnect that we really didn't want to see from Sengoku, who I personally was placing as one of our top tier teams this split.
Yeah, it's a little bit almost a bipolar idea from the team. They're not sure what they want to do. They've kind of got a little bit of every idea. And it's actually Ramune who's on the flank here. Rayfaki looks to be the target there. Gets the Eclipse Shield. Needs to dodge the hook. It's actually tanked up by once, as Rayfaki will fall victim once. Won't last much longer either. And this pick could be the look for the Baron. Rayfaki's been playing so aggressive and finally it gets punished.
They do not have a smite available for Burning Core. The JRAM is punished in the long haul, as now this Baron is started. The Dragon up in 20, but because of that spawn timer, I'm pretty sure Sengoku could contest it, as it's actually Burning Core just saying, hey, we'll get mid lane prio, and if you don't come, we'll take it. Otherwise, we're just going to throw Ezreal abilities at you and hope you come in one by one.
Which something tells me that's not going to happen. I don't know what. It could be the fact that Baron just allows a free shoving mid lane. It could be for the fact that Burning Core had basically had to give up the bottom side position already. And the fact that they're recalling out of Proud means that, yeah, this Dragon's just going to be given up. It is only Dragon 3, though. So you can afford to give up his objective. without too much punishment.
Let's take a look at how it happened. It started off with Rayfaki getting a big chunk onto Gango, 3 of those, and the guy is dead. So right now it is just returning fire, not able to get much done, and it is all off of this equalizer in a moment. We see that Rayfaki forced on the side. Brilliant hook keeps once from saving their top laner, and Ramune just cleaning up after the work from their team. Beautiful stuff from NT, beautiful stuff from Crash on the setup there. Does secure that Baron and put themselves at soul point, most importantly.
And the other thing I just noticed is Garayu, the mid lane on Galio, wasn't there for the play. Right as Rayfaki got caught out of position, they had just completed their recall. So there was no chance of being able to do a team fight there because there was no Galio ultimate. You need that for a little bit of extra room. So now Burning Core are in a little bit of an awkward position. They're getting sieged out with Baron. They're running the poke composition in the way of the Ezreal Jace, but I'm not so sure that's going to stop the Baron assault.
And one of the things that you can do to stop this Baron assault is to fully commit and try and go for the kills. But frankly, we haven't really had a chance to talk about it because it hasn't been relevant, but we don't have a good system for Burning Core to get Galio ult into the backline. Once can jump in, but they can't hold people still. Everybody could just walk away, and Gariari, yeah, they'll make a massive zone in the middle where people run away from, but nothing else will happen. As right now, items being blown by the Burning Core squad to avoid that equalizer damage, and it's just ridiculous poke coming through right now.
Yeah, Gango is basically asking him, hey, how do you like it when I give it back to you? As Yuhi very aggressively just shifted over the wall. That could have been a disaster. But turns out get away with that one. Gango wasn't really feeling like just throwing the chains of corruption out there. As, oh my god, this flank TP could be massive. Garu has to catch out somebody. They do commit to Crash, but there's no backup right now. He's just going to get burnt out, actually. Crash gets that fine chains of corruption dropped off nice and early. And another flank TP coming through from Amune. Can they get anything? They've got access to Yuhi if they want to follow to it. Once now getting caught out of position there. Immediate kick on the Paz. Some scrappy plays coming out here, and the TP flanks cause nothing.
Sengoku saying anything you can do, I can do. Actually about the same level of effectiveness. Nothing particularly impactful from either flank TP. Both of them looked extremely promising, but Ramune saying, actually, I don't want to jump onto an Ezreal with Flash into their entire enemy team. And Gariar having to escape themselves using the Flash Summoner spell from that one is going to leave us in a pretty net neutral state with neither objective up for a couple minutes, and now it is just a matter of attrition. Will we return to the JRAM? Find out in a few moments.
I think we will be returning to the JRAM, honestly, because there are no objectives up, and there are so many teams that sort of lose their mind, much like your solo queue teammates when they realize, well, there's no Dragon, there's no Baron, mid lane exists. That is the only lane that exists. So I do hope that that isn't the case, and so far it is looking like both sides aren't just hard committing to the mid lane. We're seeing once, surprise, surprise, looking near a lane. Oh no, never mind, it's the JRAM. I was just straight up wrong. It's solo queue all over again.
As far as force tools go, it's really going to be Gango getting a Prowler's Claw into ultimate off of the next minion wave. Other than that, I don't see very much happening.
Oh my god,
you're getting hyphy.
That is aggressive. Is able to dodge the death sentence, but shifting forwards is so risky. That's ballsy. He's like, I'm playing the Ezreal. I just picked up my Maw. He's not going for the Frozen Heart build that I know has been very popular recently. Instead, just going for a little bit of MR, has a stopwatch. I mean, if you're feeling that confident, you can get away with it. Why not?
I like the itemization here, considering you aren't really threatened by Gango or Paz, and the sense that you won't be helped if you do get the Frozen Heart. The attack speed won't do very much. So it kind of sucks if Ezreal does go for that one, other than the ability haste threshold. That is the one thing that item does offer you that is very crucial. Maw does, I believe, give a little bit of ability haste. I can't remember if it's 20 or not, but regardless, we'll have to see what they end up itemizing into next. They do have a couple extra slots with that stopwatch available, so even if they do completely whiff in positioning, they can always wait and then watch themselves die a few seconds later.
Yeah, well, we'll get some death soon, though. Don't worry, because look what's spawning. 20 seconds, Infernal Dragon, and Burning Core needs to contest this. You don't just want to give up the objective here. And with Paz's Mega Gnar, it does mean that Burning Core need to take a little bit of time before they can look for it.
They are postured though. Ramune is waiting, flanking on the side.
Wait.
And we have seen this hasn't been the most effective when the enemy has a Brom Galio, so we'll have to see what they choose to do with it, as it's changed from a flank. Now we've just got a River J-Ram right now. Everybody just looking forward. Paz needs to stack this Mega Gnar. Keep an eye on that Gnar bar. That is the most important part of the fight. If they get up, then we can see Sengoku get away with this fight scot-free.
Yeah. Oh my god, once going in immediately, they can stop the Gnar bar by killing the Gnar! As the rest of the teams pile in there, once diving into the backline, their Gango is free to fire from the backline, but will it matter? Ramune buying a lot of room on this Akali, scattering at the site there, but it will be Sengoku Gaming. Wait. No, blind. Oh my god, I'm blind.
That's okay. I was blindsided by that fight too. As Burning Core get the blue on the way out, they go walk up to this Baron buff mid-prio in tow, and they have run away with this advantage. So beautifully done. Now they're actually going to have Rayfaki lurk and see if they can punish NT for trying to get vision. They do not have a jungler over, but right now they are just trying to get something done.
Oh my god, goodbye Rayfaki. That was disgusting damage from the Varus, but now they're doing Baron and Gango can just free hit. They can just fire him from the side on their Yui with a beautiful cleanse, but it may not matter. Chains of Corruption has trapped them into the Baron pit here. This could be a disaster for Burning Core there, as they are diving on top of them. Once again, doing phenomenal work here on this Lee Sin. A couple of hits will do it. No! Couldn't get it done. Gango and Ramune are the two survivors to walk away.
Ran out of energy and lost to their fellow ninja in that fight. Ramune saluting after that one. Very well played. They are showing up on this Akali that we were worried would not end up happening. And now, after seeing the soul points matched up, we will get the Baron. Go over to Sengoku. And frankly, this is just a insanely back and forth game considering what we expected the skill gap would be between these teams. It is really impressive from Burning Core, keeping this game going. This is as good as they can play, and they are playing out of their minds so far. They just need to figure out how to end the game.
So let's take a look at this fight here, because the idea was solid here. You need to stop Paz from Mega Gnaring. Now, the way you do that is you just straight up kill him, which is a really good play, but the follow-up here. So looks in the kick, beautiful work there, nuke the health bar, and then the fight gets a little bit scrappy.
It does. We see that the focus goes on to Crash's Rumble. Getting rid of them means that the smite is off the table, and then they take priority away from the dragon, clean up, just zone Ramune away, run all the way to the other side, and it's this from Rayfaki that is the part that kind of gets you questioning, because you see the idea. The point is, don't let these two approach, but because they approach into Fog of War, they just get absolutely obliterated by Gango. Ramune gets to come over and free hit with the constant shurikens alongside Gango. Massive chains already used right there, and it doesn't end up getting any better for Burning Core, as now they are being sieged at base, and the Varus is going to absolutely decimate with every Q that lands.
Yeah, it's trying to be matched. Rayfaki's doing a good job trying to match it, as Paz trying to go for something there. Ramune forced to back up here. Sengoku, I like what they're looking for here, but it's a bit aggressive as Ramune is going to get nuked. Goodbye. That stopwatch is doing nothing but buying a little bit of time there. Surely one more hit will do it. No! Get out alive. Are you kidding me?
Okay, that was beautiful from NT. The perfect hook into Lantern Shield to get them out alive. That is some mid-support synergy if I've ever seen it right there. How nicely done. They managed to survive there, but all they do is break open the base with Baron. A minute left. We have one more good push coming in from Sengoku. I want to see what they're doing right here. They are going straight into this bottom lane. Everybody going. Paz is going to hesitantly stay around this mid lane, but they actually leave the Baron minions. This is, I'm going to say, not the best, as the Blitzcrank bot is confused right now.
I don't blame Blitzcrank bot for being confused. I'm confused, and I've been watching the game for the past 38 minutes. It's been a bit slow, but it has gone... It's been a very interesting game, I should say. I was going to say it's been very clean, but that's not entirely the truth here. As we're seeing Burning Core once again backing up. Because they don't have the Baron, they're forced to sort of dance to the tune that Sengoku Gaming is playing right now, and Sengoku are trying to set up a bit of a trap here. We know that if NT can get a good hook onto a priority target, that Gango can just nuke their health bar. It's, I think, really dependent on a good death sentence coming in from the support here.
So let's see what ends up happening for Burning Core. If they can get back to poking, because the Baron is about to wear off, but here comes the Equalizer they're chasing.
Change of Corruption lands on a Yuhi, but Yuhi immediately cleanses to get out there. That's like Captain Jack level of cleanser. That was beautiful. And Gango, takes a shock blast for his troubles.
Very scary amount of damage though. More is now down. The cleanse is now down. All it takes is another minion wave and about 30 seconds and Gango can run back that play. But with the dragon spawning in 25, this is beautiful for Sengoku. They've got the mid prior off of this wave and they will be able to set up. The Rumble ult is insanely low. The Varus ult is insanely low. So they have really lost nothing from that play and it is beautiful. They're going to get to hide in a bush and just wait, because if you try and step up, you will get absolutely shredded from afar.
Exactly, and look at Paz right now. He's almost got the Nahbar ready to go. This is a perfect position for that Nahbar itself, because you can easily proc it whenever you want there, as the damage is being traded between the artillery pieces of these two teams right now. And the question is, with the Dragon started up, who is going to commit? Paz cannot afford to get hit, because I think he's at the proc of Meganar. So Burning Core have to decide, do they commit to the fight there? The Equalizer is a beautiful zoning tool, and I think that Burning Core can't contest this now. They're forced to give up the objective there, and that is now a disaster. It's diving onto the backline here. Paz is just being annoying, as Guru Gary buys 2 stopwatches to buy a little bit more time there. Once now trying to do what they can in the backline there. Rayfaki is doing a lot, and Burning Core looks so lost in this team fight. They don't know what they're doing, as Rayfaki takes a ton of damage from that arrow.
I can't believe nobody died. And now Sengoku have the inside track to this bot lane if they want it, but they're saying, no, let's just reset. I hope that the camera pans over to that minion wave to see if they do break the inhib, because there's a lot in the enemy base. Oh, okay then!
Well, I mean, you did recall near enough to a ward that they could guess your position. So, good pickup by Yuhi there. But I'm not so sure I would call that a worthwhile trade, given the Baron is spawning in a minute and Crash only has a 40-second timer, so they should be up by the time that objective is up. So, so Sengoku Gaming doesn't lose too much other than the kill, which is a bit annoying.
I'm not going to say a worthless kill. It was a nice kill, but it's worthless in effect because it just means that you don't get anything. Rumble will be an effective equalizer range even if you tried to take that objective off of spawn. We have got the Infernal Soul on Sengoku. So now, Gango's proc can actually outdo Rayfaki and Yuhi, as you can see. 700 to 2 people empty. So beautifully done. Good juke right there. Keeps once away. As long as they're at arm's length, Gango is fine.
Yeah, you can tell once wants to do something really badly. Like, there's not a flash available, but I'm certain that they have access to their waters. Oh my god, Gango! That's disgusting. Do it again.
He did it again. It's a good 750 damage right now. Absolutely incomprehensible poke. You cannot approach this Baron if Gango is on the map. And now, Ramune, they are pressuring the inhib. There's 2 available for the taking. Burning Core, what will you do? You need to force a fight. You can't go to that Baron as Gariaro is coming to defend, but they will not get much done.
Yeah, they gotta be so careful though, because Sengoku Gaming needs to not get engaged on here, because look at Rayfaki and Yuhi. They want to pick a fight here as TP comes to the back line here. This could be massive. We saw TP4 coming in. Can he get a taunt? 2-man taunt coming in. So the team is piling into the fight here. This is Burning Core. Can they make it work? As Ramune is buying a lot of time in the back room there. Sengoku Gaming now arriving with reinforcements. It wasn't enough. The Infernal Dragon is massive. Rayfaki got eliminated before they could do anything really there.
It's all Gango doing all the damage. They're actually going to do a brilliant job. They stopped the minions. Right now, they're holding the wave, but they have the bot lane. It's game.
They can't get back. They can't get back. They can't get Fox Paz. Yuhi and Proud have to watch as their base is taken because they can't do anything. What a beautiful move by Paz, saying, you can kill me. My team's already won. I don't give a damn. That will be Sengoku Gaming winning in a hell of a fashion.
Observer getting whiplash after that one, getting flung around the map. How Sengoku stole that game away from Burning Core, who looked beyond competent, beyond good in that game actually, and managed to keep it going back and forth between these two teams. However, Sengoku, they claim the victory, and thank God, my second place prediction doesn't seem completely scuffed all of a sudden.
You're safe there, mate, but I wouldn't exactly call that a, well, that was a brilliant game, actually, is a better way to word it, right? From both sides, Burning Core coming into this game, I know a lot of people, including myself, weren't feeling too confident about this team. There are a lot of questions from how they performed in the first half of the year coming in here. We saw a rough game from their opponents of Sengoku Gaming in the last game, but they performed brilliantly, and I think more than anything, the discipline from both of these teams to run the team comps, and they had like 4 or 5 team fights where no one died.
And look at this one. Let's just get this replay done and then we can bring Nightmare back in after a quick break. But the flank looks beautiful. But watch right here. Once they manage to get the Q onto Gango, but so much damage, they die before they even make it. They have to go into stopwatch. They get absolutely decimated. And Ramune, they're doing amazing work on the back line. They've got 3 people dancing for them. They managed to put Rayfaki in stopwatch, and it's all said and done there. They walk it to the base. And let's talk about it in the post game. Let's have a quick 1-minute break or so. And we'll be right back, and we can talk about this game full force.
Hey guys, welcome back to the LJL. We had a little bit of a break, and now we're diving right back into taking a bit of a better look at the game we did get to just witness, which was, surprise, surprise, Sengoku Gaming and Burning Core. And Nightmare, welcome back.
Hello.
To the desk here. So, let's take a bit of a better look at that game, because there was a lot that we can sort of tackle into that one, really bite into, and I think let's start our look at this game at the start of the game, right? The champion select, because from Burning Core specifically, their draft was something that it wasn't what we were necessarily expecting, but it looked really, really good for what they brought to the table.
Now, so when I look at Burning Core as a set of individuals, I look at each of their players and I say, okay, once Rayfaki, you want to give them agency, you want to give them pressure in the early game, they have their favored champions, and you want to put some pressure towards them. Gadiadu, his best champions for me have been stuff like Azir and TF, which have similar kind of playmaking, but also on something like that Twisted Fate, which I'd say is his signature champion, it has that global presence, so putting them on the Galio seemed okay, that's something which can maybe start going topside, but also has the ability to bail out bot lane, particularly in this matchup, where you think this 2v2 is probably not going to be the thing which is thriving. Putting them on the Ezreal Braum, having a global mid and then pressure top seemed perfect for Burning Core. As soon as that everything was locked in, I looked at the draft and I said, if there is a way for Burning Core to win after their dreadful spring performance, this is it, a return to a bit more of their flavor.
And we did get to sort of see that, that aggressiveness, right? I think we have to talk a little bit about not only Ray Farkey's Jace, because that thing did some serious bullying in the top lane. I want to look at the jungler here. Once that proximity to lanes in the early game was ridiculous. Like, he was just everywhere. 20% on the top lane and 24% in the mid lane in the early game as a Lee Sin. Like, that amount of pressure is kind of, I want to say, a little bit ridiculous.
When that step popped up, you could really see the tempo of the game coming through right there. Of all the attention was right up there, right on the fridge, not allowing this Akali to get started early on. It was one fight that really gave Ramune the way into the game, but once was doing such a great job of neutralizing Gango, never letting them step up, completely keeping Paz in the ground. It was just those two double teaming them in the wrestling ring, like they're throwing the Gnar out of the pit consistently in
sumo.
every fight.
We're in Japan here, Melvin.
There you go. That's sorry. Keep it adapted. There you go. Very nicely done by those two.
It was, but let's talk about the black sheep in the room, the Baron Pit, or the Rift Herald fight, I suppose you want to call that, if you want to call it a fight, was, I want to say, a little bit messy from Burning Core. There was the flash over the wall. There was the very questionable re-engage. And as we talked about, that was kind of where we did get to see Sengoku Gaming getting back into it, right? It got the Akali 2 kills that you really sort of want on that assassin. And speaking of assassin, Ramune played phenomenally.
Yeah, and this is their debut Akali game. And I know you guys definitely want to talk about that more. So I'll let you kind of fire away on that a little bit later. But particularly, the LJL has a fascination with fighting around Herald Pit, and this is one of the ways that DFM performed so well in spring. They just crush you around that first Herald. Burning Core, they do turn up to fight. They don't turn up to stay and just watch the objective get taken away from them after they'd leashed it. They blow a couple of flashes over the wall, but Ray Farkey doesn't. He wants to take that fight, and they're trying to do the damage calculations to say, if we get a Galio ult here, can we play this fight? Answer is no. They trap themselves in the pit after they have their flashes already burnt. Things go to crap.
It definitely backfired on them, and Ramune was the main beneficiary of that. They got to sit most of the game after that point at 2-0 and 1, which is not really where you want the early game Akali to be. No. You want them happily neutralized as they have been up until that point, but using that power, they eventually ramped up. They took a little while to do it, I will say, but not going to complain, because when they did get the fights, with that rocket belt, they were a menace. They were always just eyes dead on you. He's Ezreal Sen. If I swear to God, if I see you on the side of that fight, I'm coming to get you.
This mid lane ain't big enough for the two of us.
Exactly. Insane pressure in the fights, and we saw it in that final replay we had where it was 3 people just dancing around Ramune and they could not touch them. It was great stuff, and I think that we finally got to see an improvement from them after their Lulu game in the previous one, so we actually got to see how their form is, and it's good.
I don't think it's the world's hardest thing to say, hey, let's give you a champion that is actually useful in the team fights other than buffing someone else up, and it looks fantastic. I actually would love to see Ramune given more of these assassins, and really see if that's a style that works for them, because they looked very comfortable on the champion today.
I mean, so Ramune, this is kind of going to a bit more LJL history now, but Ramune was the assassin player in the LJL. They were a Z player. Their most played champions are Syndra and LeBlanc. This is the player that dethroned Syros in the 2017-18 era when he made his debut and came in playing aggressively. Of course, LeBlanc is a bit harder to pull off right now. We're seeing some players doing that across the world, and finally finding one of those dive-in, high-mobility burst champions has seemed to be what worked for them last split as well. A little bit less with that Rise, but he's always been a Syndra player, and that's something which they picked up in spring. This pick could be huge for them. Let's see it banned for all the rest of the split.
Fingers crossed, as we do have deadly Akali threats on the team now. Last person that really deserves credence right there has to be the, last lane is Gango and Enti. Enti doing some amazing saves that game on the Thresh, but Gango Their damage was incomprehensible. It was a 1v2 in the poke war of Game 3 of today, and they ended up coming out on top after they crawled out of some of those bushes on slivers of HP from a single glance from Reifaki. Very nicely played from Sengoku, and I think the trend for today has been, first game, team doesn't look so good. Second game, they improve. Only thing is, next game, we have Burning Core versus CGA. Now, let's see if Burning Core can try and improve on their style for that one.
You'd hope so, right? Like, let's keep the trend going. Let's keep that trend alive coming into what will be the fourth game later today. I suppose let's take one final sort of look at this game, because the mid-game for our match today was very slow, was very much about moving around the side lanes and once prowling the side lanes trying to find someone when they were unguarded, and the teleports. I don't think we could do a post-game of this match about talking about the flank teleports where no one ended up dying. It's very unconventional. And I kind of want to ask you, because you know this region a little bit better, is that sort of the staple now is, oh, let's go for this highlight-looking play that looks really cool and doesn't do anything?
I think this one's a special one limited to this game to this extent. I think we have seen a bit of a propensity for LJL teams to just fight around objectives. We've not really seen a lot of LJL teams willing to make a very large map, split it wide, even with the comp which Burning Core had, which you thought could go towards that. They didn't really pull the trigger of it. Actually, both teams were very hesitant to do that, because I think they were very afraid of being engaged on this in the mid lane, and that's exactly what we saw with Apperman, continually trying to go with that Mega Knight going forwards. I know there was a bit of a change with the Sundra coming in, which is more of a side lane option, but then they kind of went towards mid lane anyway. I think this was desperation, because they realized, oh crap, what are we doing? No one can hard engage, everyone's too mobile, they're too long range, we can't close the distance, we have to start getting unorthodox, and that's when weird stuff starts happening, that's when those teleports start happening.
I think weird stuff definitely summarizes this game pretty succinctly. It was everything all in one. It was a JRAM, it was a poke war, it was just flipping at objectives, it was amazingly Sin mechanics, so I would say that was a banger, and let's see if Burning Core can continue that form, because this is a good looking meta for them now, and this was another one of our bottom place teams that was robbed from playoffs because of the win-loss record against the SoftBank Hawks, who we've seen go 1-1 today. Coming in to the rest of the day, we'll see if Burning Core can match that and keep up the pace.
Yeah, but speaking of that, guys, there will be a little bit of a break before we dive into our fourth game, which is, surprise, surprise, as we've been saying, Burning Core going up against CGA. So, guys, do not go anywhere. Game number 4 will hopefully be kicking off soon.
Ka-chow.